Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Friday. It's April 17th, and I'm not really going to do a chart lesson today. I'm going to talk about a few things on a chart just to show you some things, and I thought I'd give you a chance to see my chart for the day. Um, you can see we had a downtrend today, a two-tiered channel. Finally got a break. We didn't quite make a new low, and then we bounced. Um, you could you could characterize this on the big picture as a range type day as well, but it's really from say 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon all the way till 2 o'clock today. We were in a downtrend, and you can clearly see that two-tiered channel. Um, so it was a downtrend day, and I actually had somebody that was trying to trade range rules today and how to trade that went awry on them, and so I might talk about that one. But the real reason, this is really more of a I guess I'm not going to say it's not a rant because I'm not a ranter really. I'd call this one of my soapbox days. And all of you, if you've been around a while, you know that I get on my soapbox sometimes. I get to talking and I talk about a lot of stuff, and a lot of people like that stuff because it's really an inside look at my brain and what I'm thinking sometimes and what my thoughts are on things. And so I know a lot of people like my soapboxes, and so I probably won't do many of these on Friday. I really intended to take off early today, and I did take some time off in the middle of the day, but I had to come back to the office, and I really wanted to do this video. And so I just got to thinking, if I don't do it today, I don't want to do it over the weekend because I need a day or two away from this stuff each week. And so I'm going to take my weekend off. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do with my Friday, since I've got a little spare time? I'm going to do this because this video needs to be done. And um, and I hope all the right people get to view this video. But I guess where I want to start here is a lot of you that are new, and it's really, you've been around, this started about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so you're right at that time period where you're really starting to get frustrated and you're really starting to find out you were lied to about certain things. And I guess where I'm going is a lot of you that came over, you saw the videos at day1traders.com first. You saw their YouTube videos, and they made it look easy. They promised you'd make $500 a day. You got all excited. Then you find out they were a lie. So, but you did see some value in the information. So you came over and you bought my materials and you started trying to learn it. But the problem is when you got here, you had unrealistic expectations right out of the gate because you saw those videos and they made it look easy. And this does not apply to everybody, but I guarantee you a lot of you are saying, "Yep, that's me," and I'm pissed because this doesn't work. It's not working. It's not like I was led to believe, and this and that. And before I say another word, I'm going to tell you, price action is everything they told you it will do, but it's not easy like they told you it was. Everything they showed you is real. Everything I show you is real, and but it's not easy. You're not going to read a manual. You're not going to trade for 2 or 3 weeks and study and do this. Very few people can do this in months. Most can't do it in a couple of years. It takes a long, and the best way I can describe this, and you've heard me describe this already, but this chart speaks a language. It tells you something. But guess what? If it's speaking to you in Russian if you're an English speaker and don't know Russian, or if you're a Russian speaker and you don't know Spanish, is speaking to you in Spanish. So you don't understand what it's saying. And you can't learn what it's saying in a couple of days or a couple of weeks even. It's like trying to learn a new non-native speaking language. So if you walked in a room today, if you're an English speaker like me, I know no Russian words. I might catch the dialect and say, hey, that's a Russian, they're speaking Russian, but I wouldn't have a clue what you're saying. If I walked into a room today with a bunch of people speaking Russian, it would just be gibberish to me. And I would think, if I didn't know what they were doing, I would think they were just making stuff up because I wouldn't have a clue. So when you're new to trading and you come and you look at this chart, you just think I'm making stuff up. Some of you do anyway, because you don't understand the language and it doesn't make sense to you. It's just gibberish. So yes, that's the problem. And the only reason I'm bringing this up because it's only a few people, but man, this has been a tough week for me. I've been bombarded with email after email about you told me this would do this and it didn't, or you told me trades didn't fail like this and it did, or you told me that you showed me you took a trade just like this and this trade's just like it and mine failed. What's the deal? Well, but they're not even anything like what I told you. They're not like anything I show you because you don't understand the basics yet, and you're not going to learn them in a few weeks. So that's what really prompted this message. And it's not to chastise anybody. If you don't understand something, by all means, send me an email. Let's talk about it. Let me try to clarify it for you. That's the whole idea behind all this. But don't go on YouTube and post that this doesn't work, this is gibberish, or I lied, or I contradicted myself. I said one thing one day and one thing the other. And that's one reason, just to tell you, I don't read the YouTube emails or messages that often. So a lot of times I won't even reply to them. But I've been trying to read them lately because most of it's been good questions and good stuff. But man, I get so discouraged when I go on there and read them, and people, and if you read them, people will discourage you. People that don't have a clue, they're either they just don't understand it, or else they have an agenda, which a lot of them have an agenda. A lot of them are people, other vendors that sell stuff, and they don't like the message I tell. They don't like me telling their stuff is junk and doesn't work, things like that. So some of that you got to overlook is that, but a lot of it truly is people that are trying to learn trading, and they come in and they watch a couple of videos and they're like, what the heck, this guy's crazy. He's talking about second entries in one direction, then talking about second entries in another. How could that be? Yes, you can do your counts in both directions. When you're learning, you only want to count off the lows on your second entry short and count off the tops on your second entry longs. So coming down here, you'd be looking for second entry shorts. Going up here, you'd be looking for second entry longs. Once you get good at that, you count off both sides and you look for counter trend second entries that fail because they make good entry points. So yes, you can count both directions. So the guy that tried to argue with me that said that it didn't make sense, well, if it doesn't make sense, you just hadn't learned it yet. I'm sorry. But complaining about it and writing videos and trying to say that it doesn't make sense, all it is that we're speaking a language you don't understand, or the chart's speaking a language. And I guess since some of us can read it and do understand it, we're speaking a different language than you. And if you don't learn the language, it'll never make sense. You might as well go to a Russian party where you don't, maybe you speak Russian, I don't know, but go to a party somewhere where you don't know the language and try to go around and communicate with everybody. It'll just be gibberish to you. So this chart's going to be the same way because you don't understand it. So it may not make sense, but trust me, if you really ever want to learn to trade and make money consistently, everything you need is in these videos for free. And that's what's so ironic about it. It's free. I don't charge you anything for these videos. I don't ask you to go buy anything from me from these videos. You never hear me hawk my wares or hawk anything or try to sell anything in these videos. I do it all for free. So if you can get something out of it, more power to you. If you can't, if you just like to watch videos of people doing trades and that's your thing, there's a lot of people out there that do that. If you want to watch videos from guys that'll make you promises and show you some easy stuff and tell you it's easy, go watch it. I guarantee you'll regret it. And I guarantee you there's some of you that are watching this video now that came over from some other guys and you're disappointed and you feel like you were misled because this is not easy. And I tell everybody that from day one. This is not easy. And I'll never tell you it's easy. Once you get it and start to get it, it gets a whole lot easier. And then if you ever learn it, it's not too hard. But getting there is a whole nother story. So don't think that you're going to read a manual. I don't care I don't care if your IQ's triple mine or triple anybody's. I don't care if you're the smartest guy in the world. You're not going to pick up that manual and read it and then practice trading for 2 or 3 weeks and make money consistently. You're not going to, I don't care who you are, you're not going to do it because really the smarter you are, the harder this is because it defies common sense. And common sense won't do you any good. So I don't care what your IQ is. I don't care how smart you are. Really, the more blank your mind is when you come into this, the easier it is to learn. So, and again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not even really complaining. I just want people to know the truth. And I want you to understand my side of it as well. So, um, the reason most people fail at this is because they come into it with unrealistic expectations. They watch a video on YouTube of somebody doing a trade example, and it looks easy. I showed you one the other day. I showed you how easy, and it looked easy. I showed you a chart lesson. It looks easy, but it is easy if you know what to look for. But it takes a long time to understand this language. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of some of the things I was, going over with somebody earlier today. But this is not easy to do. And the other part of that is very much of what we do is mental. So if you come into this with doubts, if in the back of your head you've got doubts about whether it works, or doubts about whether I'm teaching you something that's correct, or whether I'm telling you the truth, or any of that, if you got doubts about any of that, guess what? You're probably going to fail. Because if you don't believe in something, half the battle is in your mind with this trading. So if you don't believe in it or believe that it's right, you need to go find something that you can believe in, even if it's wrong, because you'll probably have more success. Because trading, half of the battle with trading is the mental aspect of it. First, you got to learn how to read the chart, which I'm trying to teach you. But even then, you got to go and work on that mental part afterwards. So it's kind of a two-process battle. But trust me, if you don't believe it's going to work, or you don't trust it, or you think that I'm trying to pull something over on you, or you think that I'm making stuff up, or I'm changing the rules on the fly, guess what? You're not going to have any success. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So keep that in mind. But yes, on the YouTube questions, I don't answer those very often. Usually people will answer them. Generally, you can't leave a message until you've had one approved or something. I don't understand how that works. Some of you that keep up with YouTube more than me probably can explain why, but occasionally somebody new posts, I have to go approve it first. Maybe it's some spam related thing or whatever. So sometimes y'all will post, and it might be a week before I go check the spam, and so your message may not even get posted for a week. But it always seems like the naysayers get their stuff posted right away somehow, and some of the good questions get left out there. So, but just understand that I don't read those comments very often, and really the main reason I don't is because it just discourages me. When I go read and you read some of the comments, people, I mean, I've got pretty thick skin, and I've learned not to let people like that bother me. I keep doing what I do, and it doesn't stop me, but it just gets frustrating sometimes when you got to answer the same questions over and over, and you get somebody that just, and the naysayers and the troublemakers and all. So if you don't see me answering those YouTube questions and answers very much, that's part of the reason why I got enough to answer on my emails and on the website. That YouTube is just kind of, it takes the back seat because there's just too many haters and troublemakers, and I don't want to go on there and kick people off. I never block messages. I let people post their messages. If it gets sent over to spam, that's not me blocking you out. That's YouTube doing it. So I've had people accuse me of blocking them or deleting their messages because it didn't fit my message. I've never deleted it. I think twice in 10 years, I've booted somebody off of the YouTube channel just because they wouldn't quit, and they just got to be a problem. So I don't block messages. Everything there is real. I don't hire people to go make messages for me or talk people into going and make them for me or make my own fake messages or any of that stuff that people accuse you of. What you see there is what people post. I don't really care, to be honest with you. So most of the time I'll just ignore those messages. Last couple of days I've tried to answer them because I know there's so many new people, and I don't want to see people get discouraged. But You know, if you're a naysayer or a dissenter or a troublemaker, I'm probably going to ignore you. So sorry. But yeah, the main thing I wanted to get across today is that, you know, you got to believe in this first of all. And if you believe in it, you're going to be miles ahead of the people that don't. Or that, you know, if you don't believe in it, I don't know why you even bother. But it seems people do. It's just like they want to believe, but their own mind keeps them from believing. And it's probably from past experiences and stuff. I know that there's, you know, I get people that tell me they've blown $100,000 accounts, and people that tell me they've paid $7,000 and $8,000 for trading strategies that are worthless. And I mean, I've seen these strategies. I know they're worthless. They're just, and they put these high price tags on them. People think, well, it costs so much money, it's got to work, it's got to be great. And they show you these little videos and things, and it's just not worth the paper it's even printed on or the video that it's recorded on. So in the end, I don't care what strategy anybody uses. Anybody that's making money consistently as a day trader in the markets can read this chart. They may not call it price action. They may not call it chart reading. They may not even know they're reading the chart. But they understand prices, and they know what prices are doing, and they understand the setups, and they understand what prices are. You know, all prices do is go back and forth between support and resistance. Sometimes that's slanted like this, but many times it's a trend line. And all this is slanted support and resistance. And look what prices do. They go from resistance to support, to resistance to support, to resistance to support, resistance to support, resistance to support. And sometimes it's the midline. Sometimes you, like right here, you start to get horizontal resistance. You get a little more right across here. I don't even have it on here. I wasn't really paying much attention to the chart this late in the day. Late in the morning or whatever you want to call it. But you can see that resistance across there. Prices kept turning down, and we actually, notice how we came up a little short of the midline, and then we overshot it about the same. That's common, but you know, when it starts to overshoot like this, it's going to mean one or two things. It's going to mean we're probably going to get a break and reverse, or we might have an equal distance. And just measure your distance across there. Copy your line like I always show you on everything else. And drop it down the equal distance. In this case, we didn't end up going that way, but this could have ended up being a midline with all these overshoots, and we could have went that way. But instead, it's just an overshoot, and we reversed and went the other way. And that's pretty common what happens. When you get overshoots on the trend channel line, it's going to at least lead to a break. And notice we still tried to make the retest, but we bounced off the midline, and then we rallied into the end of the day. People probably didn't want to carry shorts into the weekend, so they all started exiting this afternoon. And they were all short all day, and then they exited, and we rallied back some. That's pretty common because people don't want to. People have to get out by the end of the day. So some days you'll close on your very low on a downtrend or close on your very high on an uptrend, but other days, especially when the market's kind of crazy right now, all these shorts, probably people made money, they just started closing out on the way up, and then it starts rallying, and then more buyers come in. This is definitely a downtrend day, so hopefully you can see that. I had somebody sent me their chart, and they were trying to trade a sell up here somewhere, I guess is what it was, because they were looking at this as a range day, and it came back up here, and they tried to sell, and I think I have their chart. Okay, here's this gentleman's chart. His chart looks different. I think he was trading the MES, but you can see he had the downtrend too. And I can't tell, I don't remember what time he sent me this chart, but it looks like he rallied. But even looking at the time, you don't know because it could be a different time range. But he asked me why his second entry failed here, his second entry short. First of all, look at this trend up. Why would you're just trying to pick a top here? I mean, the only way you want to sell up here is if you had turned down right there at that same spot multiple times and you had a known range day. But you saw my chart, and I'm pretty sure you had a downtrend right across here. Let's do this. Okay, I got his chart in Paint where I can just make some changes to it, make some notations on it. But there's his highs. Oops. And you can see that trend line working down through there. He had the same basic trend line I did. You could bring it down here to the low. Oops. Well, I can't move it again now, but you bring it down there to the low. Let's just do it again. This is not ideal for doing charts, but it's about the only way I can mark up somebody else's chart. We bring this down here to the lows. Let's do another midline. That was right in there basically. So he's basically got the same downtrend. He got the big spike up in the downtrend. He got a break here. That says 10 o'clock. So his chart, of course, this is the MES, but it pretty much tracks. It pretty much tracks mine. So 9 or 10 o'clock would be this. So I don't know why his chart looks different anyway, but it's, you know, this is a downtrend day. And if you go back to his chart, it's down, and that would be the first break of this trend channel. But even regardless, if you don't see that, and let's just say you are playing this as a range day, you got a trend working up right here. Look at that trend. And you're going to short right there. You're not. Why would you short right there? You got a trend with no break, no close outside. Very strong trend on top of that. He said this was a second entry. It's not. Your last swing low was right here. Or no, it's right here because it's lower than that one. So let's see what that was. There's your last swing low. Because if you're going short, you got to count off the lows. So it's first entry, second entry. That's a third entry short. How he got a second entry, I don't know. Unless he counted that as a new low and just went first entry, second entry. But that's wrong. You got to start from the last swing low. There's the last one because it's lower than that one. So first entry, second entry, that's a third entry short. So I hope that's clear. So, you know, and this trader, I mean, he wasn't ugly about it or anything, so don't get that wrong. Don't take me the wrong way, but he, you know, he just sent me an email that says, you know, I told him trades never failed, and here's one that failed. Explain it to him. And he was convinced he'd done everything right, and he didn't do anything right. His trend is up. Actually, the trend is down. That's the first break of the trend channel. So you would probably expect this to turn back down again, most likely. But we might have had an overshoot. I didn't, you know, like it did on mine. I don't know if his had an overshoot. I didn't look at it that closely, so I just kind of threw it out there a second ago. But regardless, he's got a trend working up, and there's no reason to be looking for a short. You're just trying to pick a top here. And if you read the manual, that's the most important thing. He says don't try to pick tops. If anything, he should have been looking for a long here. So, because we're in a big uptrend. So you would have been waiting on prices to come back to this trend line, not looking for a short. So I hope that's clear. But this is just an example of somebody telling me it doesn't work. And all it is they don't understand that they've misread the whole chart. So it's kind of the point I'm trying to make today. If you don't understand this stuff, don't knock it till you know you understand it. Then, if you have a failure, we can talk about it. I mean, and that's the other point I wanted to make. I wanted to tell you, every trend I wanted to come back to my chart, but every trend, eventually at some point the trend line fails. And here's something else. I don't know if I've talked about this lately, but if you get a trend line in the overnight and you get a little break in the overnight, it may not lead to a reversal. Wait until you get and see, and once you get into the 830, which is where it turns white right there, and you can see this trend still worked all day until here, but we actually had an overshoot first. So sometimes you can ignore these little overshoots in the overnight because the volume's thin and they can run it easier in different directions. So keep that in mind. But also where I was going with this is every trend line will eventually fail. And like right here, it eventually failed. So every trend line working down. This one was coming down. We had an overshoot and prices went that way. Let me get in here a little tighter. Here's one that was coming down this morning. You finally got a break. I don't know if I'd even count that one as a break. That's probably more of an overshoot. And this one probably needs adjusting a little bit here. I probably would look at this one off the low a little more, like so. Then bring it up. It definitely fits a little better there. Still get to the same place. You're running down here, you get a break and a new low, a couple of legs, and then it reverses. So, but notice eventually every trend line gives. So at some point, it's not going to turn down at the trend line. But usually if you have your trend lines drawn correctly and everything's fitting nicely, and see how that fits, how it turns off the highs every time and turns off the lows every time. That's how you know it fits right. The way I had the first one, it wasn't quite doing that. I didn't quite have my trend lines. I still got to the same place, but my trend line wasn't quite right on the first one. So you don't have to be perfect, but you got to be close. People get all hung up on it being perfect and looking their chart being perfect and looking exactly like mine. It doesn't have to. I could take your chart and trade it, and I might get a few different trades than you get, but I could take your chart and trade it. And you could take mine and trade it if you know how to do this. So it's not as important as everybody gets all worked up about, but that's another story. But eventually you're going to get a break. Here you still got it. Look, a first entry and a second entry and a bearish bar. There was another great trade because that was your first break. You weren't looking for prices to go off that way. Just kind of like, that's the next point I wanted to make. We'll come back to that. I'm going to stop Actually, I'm going to open this chart. Okay, this gentleman wrote me and he just couldn't understand why he had a failed second entry. Right. Actually, technically, this is not a failed second entry short because you could have easily still scalped out of this. But he thought he should get another leg in this direction, which you wouldn't be out of the realms of looking for that. But that wouldn't be, notice you got an uptrend working here. Two-tiered channel, very clear. That's the first break. So what are we still expecting to happen? We're expecting a retest of that with probably two legs to a new high, and then you'll get probably a correction. And we had a huge sell-off up here. This is from yesterday, I believe. If I remember right, we had a failed second entry long up here, and the bottom fell out of it. So it was perfect price action, exactly how we teach it. Break of the trend line, two legs to a new high, and then the market reversed. You got a correction. It wasn't just a correction, it was a huge reversal. So it was perfect price action. But he couldn't understand why I went short there because he said I showed him a trade just the other day, just like this. So why was it okay when it worked for me, and now I'm saying that he took the wrong trade? Well, let me show you the trade I showed you, or the trade I showed him rather, or he was comparing it to, was here. I notice you got a trend working up here. You had a big overshoot, you had a close outside, you had a little more than two legs up to a new high, but it was also a range day, and there was resistance right up here. We didn't quite get back to it, but this trend had played out. So this is the trade he's talking about. He said it looked just like his. So, but notice what I did here. I drew the trend line off the first two swings. So he wanted to know how I knew to go short there. Well, I had my trend line drawn, and I was expecting a possible reversal because we just came off the highs of the range, or the midline, or I can't remember if it was the midline or the highs. It might have been the midline. But here's the lows of the range down here. Look what happened when we came back to it. But anyway, we already had the trend line play out. There was a perfect measured move up to this. I measured the move from the low up to here, moved it over. Look at that two-legged correction in the middle. It was a perfect measured move, and then this came. And you draw your trend line right here. And do I know it's going to turn down here? No. But I drew my trend line, and when I got a second entry short right at the key entry point and a decent bar, I marked it. And when I marked these trades, you can see these were when I was just marking second entries with the trend, with a good trend bar, and showing you how everyone, how easy it was to find them that worked. I wasn't necessarily even saying that was a good trade, but it is a good trade. I'd take that trade right now if I got a chance to take it. So it fits everything. I mean, it's perfect price action, basically. So notice how I drew that trend line right there. And you actually could get it off this side. Actually, you could draw this one early from what you could have had this trend line. I think this was 30 minutes prior or something. I can't remember now. You can't see all the chart either. So, but you had this trend line way in advance. But even if you didn't get it up here, you could have just drawn a little line right across there and pulled it up and got the same thing. So you could do that in either way, really. But again, look at that, how that looks. And then you go back to his chart, and you see he tried to draw the trend lines, but when it came back to confirm his, it just shot on through and made his second leg up. But he shouldn't have been looking for a short here anyway, because this is not played out. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about context. If you're just going around this chart looking for second entries, especially counter trend second entries, you're going to have some losers. You're going to have some losers to the high side, even with the trend. Because if you don't read the context and know that we already made a measured move or something like that, or we're right into strong, like right here, look at all that resistance. So if you took a second entry in here right into that resistance, it might fail, even if only temporarily before it goes higher. So that's what I'm trying to get across to people when I try to tell you that we are not pattern traders. And that's where all this is going. We are not pattern traders. So when you start talking about just looking for second entries, let me tell you, if you just go out and find the trend and look for second entries with the trend, you won't do bad at all. Because look right here, there's a new high right there. You're coming back, first entry, second entry. There's a perfect second entry. If he'd have taken that trade, all's good. But no, he's trying to go the other direction. So he just, don't think, let the price action tell you. So that's understand first what prices are doing by what we teach. You got a trend coming up, that's the first break. What does the rules tell you? We're probably going to make a retest of the high. A lot of times it's two legs, and then you get a correction. That's first leg, and there's your other second leg, and then it reversed. And if you just would have stayed with the trend, first entry, second entry, right there, you got a perfect easy win. You would have probably got a runner with that. So not only would you have a winning trade, you probably could have ridden this up to the new high, right up there where the resistance was. When you got in that little congestion, just exit, take your profit. So you have to understand, but if you just take second entries with the trend, more times than not, you'll still do pretty good, but you're going to have some losers because you're not reading the context and taking the trades always with the context. You're just gambling based on what's really going on. You're just gambling, guessing at them. So keep that in mind. But in wrapping this one up, the point I want to leave with you is, for some of you, if you really want to learn this, if you'd spend more time trying to figure it out rather than trying to prove it doesn't work, you would have a lot more success. And again, some of those people that are, that post on YouTube and stuff, they're not trying to learn anything. Most likely, they're just haters or naysayers or whatever. But some of them's names I've seen around before a few times. So maybe they are trying to learn, and they're frustrated because it doesn't work for them. But it's not because it doesn't work. It's because they just don't understand it. And maybe they'll never understand it. Trading is not for everybody. Most people that come into this will fail at it. About 10% of traders make it. 10% of the traders make all the money that are actually out there trading, just about. So most will fail. Most are donators. You've heard me say it before. You don't want to be a donator. So if you don't know how to trade yet, surely don't be trading live. Prove it on the simulator. And a lot of times people say, well, there's no skin in the game on that. Well, that's right. We'll put you some skin in the game. This is the way it's not quite the same, but it does make it more realistic. If you can't go live until you can double a sim account, say start with 10K. So if you start with a sim account and you put $10,000 in it, well, don't go live until you can double that account. And so that puts some pressure on you. You got to double that account. And I mean doing it the right way. If you're moving your stops and doubling down when you're wrong, trying to get it back and all that, well, then you didn't do it right. I'm talking about following the rules, trading like we teach you to trade, and doing it properly. If you can double an account, then you're ready to probably dip your toes in and see. If you do dip your toes in and you start screwing up, just stop trading and go back to the sim and double a $5,000 account or $2,500 just to get your feet wet, to get back and get your confidence back under you and prove you can do it again. But if you can't do it, if you can't double a sim account, there's no way you can trade live. So please don't waste your money trying to prove to yourself. Don't be a donator. That's my point. So, but yeah, in wrapping it up, don't be a donator. Prove this stuff. Also, quit wasting time trying to prove it doesn't work. If you don't believe in it, go find something you believe in, because you're just wasting your time and you're wasting my time and everybody else's time that has to read your silly comments on YouTube and stuff when you don't know what you're talking about sometimes. And I don't mean that ugly to anybody. The guy may truly believe that it's gibberish, but it is to him because he doesn't speak the language. You got to learn to speak this language before it'll make sense. Don't expect to walk into a room with somebody speaking a different language than you and have a clue what's going on. It'll just be gibberish. And that's the same thing when you come to this chart. You're just throwing darts at a board, guessing if you can't read the price action. And when somebody tells me they think they got it, and they take a trade and it doesn't meet one single piece of criteria of what we're doing, then you really got to wonder about it. It's not. Again, I'm not picking on anybody or trying to be ugly. I'm just being honest. So anyway, a Friday afternoon that I planned to be out of here earlier. I'm still here. I'm doing this for the few that matters. The rest of you, if it doesn't work for you, find something that works for you. I want you to be successful. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again Monday. I'm done for today. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.